Don't worry if you don't understand English very well. You can simply press the settings button and easily set a subtitle language.
For automatic subtitles, tap the CC icon or the settings button, select subtitles, and then the language you prefer. Works the same on all devices.
That was all super simple and quick. Enjoy watching.
Okay, we all know the guy in the red suit, right? But what if I told you the real story, the true story, is way more dramatic and honestly, more interesting than any Christmas tale you've ever heard? Today, we're going to peel back all those layers of myth to find the actual person who started the whole Santa Claus legend.
So you've got these two totally different figures. On one side, you have the magical Christmas icon we all know and love, and on the other, a real flesh and blood guy from the ancient world. How in the world do we get from a bishop in Turkey to a legend at the North Pole? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Right, so that's the big question, isn't it? How did a real-life saint, a man of action and deep faith, morph into a magical toy maker? Believe me, the journey is just wild. All right, let's get into it. So, our story doesn't start at the North Pole. Nope, we're going way back to the ancient Roman Empire, to a bustling port city on the Mediterranean coast. You know, the history here is actually pretty clear. Nicholas was a real dude, born into a wealthy family back in the 3rd century. And yeah, he became a bishop, but that's not what made him famous. No, it was his just radical generosity.
So picture this. Nicholas is still a pretty young guy when his parents die in an epidemic. They leave him a huge fortune. And this is one of those moments that just changes everything, right? He could have lived a life of luxury, but he makes a choice that's going to define his entire legacy, a choice that we're still talking about centuries later. He decided to give it all away.
And that decision, it leads right into his most famous story. And this is the one, you guys, that has all the little seeds of the Santa Claus legend we know today. It all starts here.
Okay, so the story goes like this. Nicholas hears about this family in real trouble. See, back in the 4th century Roman world, if a woman didn't have a dowry, she couldn't get married. And for these 3 daughters, that meant a really, really terrible future. So for 3 nights in a row, Nicholas secretly throws bags of gold into their house, saving them. And when their father finally catches him, he begs the guy to keep it a secret. This whole thing, the secret nighttime gift-giving that literally saves lives, this is the core, the absolute kernel of the Santa legend.
All right, so that's the man. But the story definitely doesn't stop there. Over the centuries, his life gets legendary. And that line between the real person and the myth starts to get really, really blurry. And to really get Nicholas, you have to understand this thing called hagiography. Basically, it's a biography of a saint. But these weren't like the biographies we read today, all about objective facts. Nope. These stories were written to inspire people, so they'd often mix real history with some pretty wild tales, just to show how virtuous the saint was. Now, here's something that might surprise you. The oldest story we have about Nicholas, it has nothing to do with gifts at all. It's about his sheer guts. He apparently stood up to a corrupt governor, even confronted an emperor in a dream to save these innocent guys from being executed. So what does that tell us? His first reputation wasn't as a gift giver, but as a fierce protector. But as the years went by, the stories just got crazier and crazier. And the most bizarre one? Oh, it's a doozy. It's a medieval legend where this evil butcher murders 3 kids and, get this, pickles them in a barrel to sell his pork. I know, it's grim. But Nicholas, of course, figures it out and, poof, miraculously brings them back to life. Yeah, as you can probably guess, historians are like, nope, that didn't happen. That gruesome story is pure fiction. It doesn't show up anywhere for centuries after Nicholas died. It's just a classic example of one of those hagiographies trying to pump up his reputation as a miracle worker. So that brings up a really important question, right? If these stories aren't literally true, why tell them? Well, it's because they show us what people valued in him. They saw him as the ultimate protector, a champion for kids, and this powerful force against anything evil. Okay, so Nicholas dies around 343 AD, but believe me, his story is far from over. In fact, what happened to his body, well, it's one of the weirdest and most important parts of his entire legend. For more than 700 years, his bones just rested peacefully in his church in Myra. But then, in 1087, the whole region is in chaos. So these merchants from Bari, Italy, they sail over, break into his tomb, and straight up steal his bones. They take them back home,
And this wasn't random. It was basically a holy robbery designed to bring a super famous, money-making relic to their city. And this just shows you how wild the journey of his relics was. The main skeleton ends up in Bari. But then, sailors from Venice come and grab the leftover pieces. His bones literally get scattered across Europe over centuries. It's so crazy that a bone fragment found in the US was recently carbon dated, and yep, it's from the right time period.
But here's the cool part. Having this relic split up between different churches, as weird as that is, actually allowed for something amazing to happen. Modern science could finally step in and give us a real picture of the man himself.
So, scientists analyzed the bones in Bari, and we get our first real glimpse of the guy. Turns out he was about 5'6". Pretty average for a man back in the 4th century.
But the really jaw-dropping part came from a facial reconstruction. It showed he had a severely broken nose that healed all crooked. Think about that. This physical scar is pretty powerful evidence that he might have been thrown in prison and tortured for his faith during those brutal Roman persecutions. It's a detail that stories had talked about for centuries, and now there's physical proof.
So, let's recap. We've got this tough-as-nails, justice-seeking bishop from Turkey, literally battle-scarred for his beliefs. So how does that guy become the jolly, rosy-cheeked Santa Claus?
Well, it didn't happen overnight. The transformation took centuries as his story spread across Europe. And a huge piece of the puzzle is in the Netherlands, where he became Sinterklaas, this beloved figure who'd show up on a boat and give gifts to kids on his feast day, December 6th.
And then, Dutch settlers brought Sinterklaas with them when they founded New Amsterdam, which, you guessed it, later became New York City. And it's there, in 19th century America, that writers and artists really started to mold him into the figure we know. They mixed his story with other traditions, moved the gift-giving to Christmas Eve, and just like that, Sinterklaas became Santa Claus.
So, here's the bottom line. Behind the red suit, the sleigh, the reindeer, all of it, there was a real, fascinating historical person. A man who wasn't defined by magic, but by a hardcore commitment to justice and this incredible anonymous generosity. That spirit of giving, that was him. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought, doesn't it? The real legacy of St. Nicholas isn't about getting presents. It's about giving them, especially when no one's watching and you're not expecting anything in return. So maybe the true spirit of it all isn't waiting for that secret gift giver to show up, but in becoming one yourself.
If you like the story of St. Nicholas and want to discover other personalities, press the like button, subscribe, and share. See you in the next episode.